if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, I get this question a lot, right? Like, I'm going to go make the leap or be an entrepreneur. I would say slow down. And I'm enjoying being an entrepreneur, but if 100 people are thinking about being an entrepreneur, about 98 people should not be, right?
Sure.
It's a pretty crazy, difficult, scary path. And I don't even, the money is only part of it. It's psychologically, emotionally, very challenging. And, look, there are things that are a good idea. Going to the movies is a good idea, right? Going to the beach is a good idea, right? Maybe having a glass of wine could be a good idea. Starting a business isn't necessarily a good idea, right? And so that's one, is just really like learn more about entrepreneurship. If you want to be an entrepreneur, hang out with entrepreneurs, be in a co-working space, help advise a company, help test a product, get a front row seat before you sign up for something, right? Like if you were going to move to India, you'd probably visit before you agreed to move your life, right? Mm-hmm. So sort of try before you buy, right?
Yes.
And look, we need more entrepreneurs in the world. I am pro entrepreneur, but I think it'll help you if you have a better sense of what you're getting into, right?
Yes.
Second thing is I have a 16-year-old mentee in high school here, and he's a Dominican immigrant, lives in the Bronx, he'll be first gen to go to college, hopefully, if we get him there. And he's always thinking about what's his idea, right? And he's obsessed with his idea. And I said, it's just really not the idea. Ideas are cheap, right? I said, the thing you have to fall in love with is the problem you're solving. And some of the best entrepreneurs I know care more about the problem. Like Pilot, the problem was always helping people feel powerful at work and be happy at work. That was always the problem, right? We first had a direct-to-consumer online product and assessment that we don't even have anymore. We got rid of that, threw that in the river, right? That was our solution. We learned some things, we iterated, we changed, right? And so what we have now is drastically different than what we started, but the problem's the same one. And that's what we're in love with, is that problem. And that's why we want to get that weekly engagement number above 80%, even though it's damn good and the industry average is about 5%. We want to get it higher because we want people going to the gym, because we want people fit at work. So that's the thing to think about, is like, if you're thinking about what's your idea, think about what problem would I really like to solve, and what problem would I be willing to spend 10 years trying to solve, right? And all the money I had, and all the energy, and half my friendships, like that's a key
yes. That one's painful.
Totally. And I guess the other thing is I'm a very revenue first entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the press talks about venture-backed companies and fundraising most of the time. Mm-hmm. But a majority of small businesses in America are not venture-backed. Very few small businesses are venture-backed, and even startups aren't always venture-backed, even the majority of the time. Mm-hmm. But that just seems like that's the only way to go, right? And it could be. I've had friends that have raised money and done super well and done amazing things and worked with great investors who gave them amazing advice. And I've had plenty of people who have not had that experience, right? So it's not to say that investment's bad or VCs are bad at all, right? There's some really great ones. But, the focus often is like on expenses and not income. So then when I would talk to people, right, and they're like, oh, like, where's your office and how many people you have and what's your brand and all stuff, and like your website and all this is like expense, right? The smarter question is like, what's your product? Where are your customers? How are you going to grow? Like, whatever. So I learned this when I started coaching before I built Pilot. I have an executive and business coaching practice. And I just didn't expect to ever be a coach, didn't expect to have a business, but I started my business with an $88 investment, right?
Wow.
Moo.com makes these really nice business cards. If you ever need business cards, use Moo, they're the best. And I didn't even have a logo. I didn't even know what to call myself. I didn't have a website. And I just had like Ben Brooks or like business consultant or something, and I used a generic template that they had. And I made $100,000 from those $88 in business cards and a few lunches, right, on my Amex card, like very little investment, right? Because I was focused on making money, not spending money. Now, I eventually made a really bomb-ass website. I made a really nice website and a video biography and all this really nice stuff. And on benbrooksny.com is the website. And it was, but only after I'd made money. And a lot of people, when they start out, think, oh, I got to have this and I got to have that. And what I found is people were happy to hire me as a coach without a website. And you have to let the market decide. And that's part of lean startup and minimum viable product and things. And Mark Zuckerberg has said, and Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn too, that if you're not at least a little bit embarrassed by your product, you released it too late. And I think that sometimes the wanting to impress people and all of us, and it's our adventure and ourselves, that, we think that everyone's like sort of watching us and cares, and people just don't, right? They got their lives and their own things to do. So that's the other thing I would just sort of impress on people is think revenue first. Like, how can you make money learning, right? Like if you need to do market research, how could you get paid to do that, right? If you need to build a prototype, how could you charge in that process? And because that's when you start to, one, honor yourself, two, find different sources of capital, and then you really prioritize. And I think if we have more conversations around sort of revenue first, it doesn't mean like profitability, it doesn't mean lots of revenue, it doesn't mean mountains of cash, but it is the idea that you should be focused on doing things that over time will generate income, because fundamentally, if it's a business, you got to do that. And you need to manage your expenses down below your income so you have a profit. And it's like so fundamental, but there's not nearly enough conversation around kind of this income and revenue and cash flow centricity and keeping expenses down. Not, everyone now brags about how nice the office is and the perks and the iced coffee and the massages and the trips to Palm Springs and all of that, which is like, okay, cool. Like if I was an employee, that'd be great. But as an owner, right, and thinking like a board member and an owner, right, an investor, I want to, I'll offer those things when we can afford them, right? But I'm not going to offer them before we can afford them.
That, my friends, very valuable pieces of advice. I had one failed business, one failed startup. It's all about spending money.
Yep.
Of course, I learned it the wrong way. Now is then when I start my consulting business on the side, I had my first 5 figures even before I had my business card. My clients like, do you have a business card? No. Do you have a website? No. But I can give you the result, then you give me the money.
And that's what they want.
Exactly.
No one's like, oh my God, I have this great consultant. You should see her business card. You got to check out her website. No, they talk about the fact that you help them with whatever you're helping them with, right? They talk about the results.
Exactly. But a lot of us actually didn't know. It's funny how our mind works. I think it has something with our fear of being judged.
Yeah.
We have to look good, especially coming from the corporate side. We'll always look good, polished.
Yep.
So we have to look good in front of our former colleagues. It sinks so much money into non-necessary things. So that particular one, I'll clip it out. I'll probably share with so many people. Just listen to this when you need to start your business. It's a very, very important piece of information.
And what I say about that is you want to sort of not use the L word, which is launch. We learned that mistake with Pilot, or a lesson, I guess you could say, but because of all the things you just said, trying to impress people and put your best foot forward and the corporate learning and all that, we were just very focused on like the launch. And, you would have thought we were, Elon Musk and SpaceX and putting a rocket up to the, space station. And so we had these videos and this brand and this social media and all this legal stuff and this IT things and this PR. We didn't need really any of that, right? And it's probably what we spent a majority of our money and focus on. And it didn't generate us any money. So it's funny, my first business, I did a better job than Pilot initially, right? But I got really excited about Pilot, about like what it could be. But again, focused on sometimes the things that I like to do or the things that I thought would make us look good. And when we launched, people thought we looked good, but we weren't having the financial results or the momentum or the learning that we needed to. And so I think that that's where I think as I talk to other entrepreneurs now and they talk about their launch and how they're going to grind it out for a year and then have this big ta-da, I say like, what if you didn't have a launch? What if it just sort of emerged incrementally and things sort of just started to happen, right? You started to communicate. You just put up a Facebook post about it and you just put something on LinkedIn and then you just did a little survey and then you just have a little prototype and there's not even a web page. Maybe it's just an Evernote note link and it's this and it's just, and all of a sudden it just becomes a thing because you have the momentum rather, rather than this whole thing where we have to like, you think of almost a construction paradigm, right? I'm not going to open the store until I have all the stuff. Well, while you're getting the store ready, you're paying rent. You have inventory, you have staff, you're just bleeding, right? Mm-hmm. Versus saying, hey, look, like we have one piece of, we have one item in the store. Let's open the door and see if someone buys something.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. That should be the first way to go, is to now, yeah, I'm also sharing with people, building your company from outside in. That means your revenues, your customers first before you figure out all the back ends, the how to, those will come so easily once you figure out who's paying you.